Hello, fifth graders. I'm going to be reading chapter 29 to 31. I kind of sort of have this all figured out so that we can finish this book before the end of the school year and before the end of your time here, as promised. We'll see how this goes. Chapter 29. Start with a curtsy and finish with a thread. Miggery Sow's luck continued on. On her first day on the job as a castle servant, she was sent to deliver a spool of red thread to the princess. Mind, said the head of the serving staff, a dour woman named Louise. She's royalty, so you must take sure that you curtsy. How's that? Shouted Midge. You must curtsy, shouted Louise. Gore, said Midge. Yes'm. She took the spool of thread from Louise and made her way up to the golden stairs to the princess's room, talking to herself as she went. Here I am off to see a princess. Me, Miggery Sow, seeing the princess up close and personal like, and first off, I must curtsy because she's the royalty. At the door of the princess's room, Midge had a sudden crisis of confidence. She stood a moment, clutching the spool of thread, muttering to herself. Now how did that go? She said. Give the princess the thread and then give her a curtsy? No, first the curtsy, then the thread? That's it. Gore, that's right, that's the order. Start with the curtsy and finish with the thread. She knocked on the princess's door. Enter, said the pea. Midge, hearing nothing, knocked again. Enter, said the princess. And Midge, still hearing nothing, knocked yet again. Maybe, she said to herself, the princess ain't no home. And then the door was flung wide, and there was the princess herself, staring right at Miggery Sow. Gore, said Midge, her mouth hanging open. Hello, said Princess. Are you the new serving maid? Have you brought me my thread? Curtsy I must, shouted Midge. She gathered her skirts, dropped the spool of thread, stuck a foot out and stepped on the spool, rocked back and forth for what seemed like quite a long time, both to the watching princess and the rocking Midge, and finally fell to the floor with a Midge's thud. Whoopsie, said Miggery Sow. The pea could not help it. She laughed. That's all right, she said to Midge, shaking her head. It's the spirit of the thing that counts. How's that? Shouted Midge. It's the spirit of the thing that counts, shouted Pea. Thank you, miss, said Midge. She got slowly to her feet. She looked at the princess. She looked down at the floor. First the curtsy, then the thread. Midge muttered. Pardon? Said the pea. Gore, said Midge, the thread. She dropped to her hands and knees to locate the spool of thread, and then she found it. She stood back up and offered it to Pea. I brought you your thread, didn't I? Here's a picture of poor Miggery Sow taking a tumble. Lovely, said the princess as she took the thread from Midge. Thank you so much. I can't seem to hold on to a spool of red thread. Every one I have disappears somehow. Are you making a thing? Said Midge, squinting at the cloth in Pea's hand. I'm making a history of the world, my world, said the princess. In tapestry, see? Here's my father, the king, and he's playing the guitar because that's something he loves to do and does quite well. And here's my mother, the queen. She is eating soup because she loved soup. Soup, Gore, that's against the law. Yes, says the princess. My father outlawed it because my mother died while she was eating it. Your ma's dead? Yes, said Pea. She died just last month. She bit her bottom lip to stop it from trembling. Ain't that the thing, said Midge. My ma's dead, too. How old were you when she died? Bold was I, said Midge, taking a step back away from the princess. I'm sorry, then. No, how old were you? Shouted the pea. Not but 6, said Midge. I'm sorry, said the princess. She gave Midge a quick, deep look of sympathy. How old are you now? 12 years. So am I, said the princess. We're the same age. What is your name? She shouted. Miggery Sow, but most just call me Midge, and I saw him once before, princess. He passed me by on a little white horse. On my birthday it was. I was in the field with Uncle Sheep, and it was sunset time. Did I wave to you? Asked the princess. Eh? Did I wave? Shouted the pea. Yes, nodded Midge. But you didn't wave back. I did, said Midge, only you didn't see. Someday I'll sit on a little white horse and wear a crown and wave. Someday, said Midge, and she put up a hand to touch her left ear. I'll be a princess, too. Really? Said the pea. And she gave Midge another quick, deep look, but said nothing else. Then Midge finally made her way back to the golden stairs. Louise was waiting for her. How long, she roared, did it take you to deliver a spool of thread to the princess? Too long? Guessed Midge. That's right, said Louise. She gave Midge a good clout to the ear. You're not destined to be one of our servants. It's already abundantly clear. No, ma'am, said Midge. That's all right, though, because I aim to be a princess. You? A princess? Don't make me laugh. This, reader, was a little joke on Louise's part, as she was not a person who laughed. Ever. Not even at the notion as ridiculous as Miggery becoming a princess. Chapter 30. To the Dungeon. At the castle, for the first time in her young life, Midge had enough to eat, and eat she did. She quickly became plump and then plumper still. She grew rounder and rounder and bigger, only her head remained small. Reader, as a teller of this tale, it is my duty from time to time to utter some hard and rather disagreeable truths. In a spirit of honesty, then, I must inform you that Midge was a tiniest bit lazy. And, too, she was not the sharpest knife in the drawer. That is, she was a bit slow-witted. Because of these shortcomings, Louise was hard-pressed to find a job for Miggery that she could effectively perform, and in quick succession Midge failed as a lady-in-waiting. She was caught trying on the gown of a visiting duchess. A seamstress, she sewed the cloak of the riding master to her own frock and ruined both. And as a chambermaid, sent to clean the room, she stood open-mouthed and delighted, admiring the gold walls and floors and tapestries, exclaiming over and over again, "Gor, ain't it pretty? Gor, ain't it something then?" and did no cleaning at all. And while Midge was trying and failing at these many domestic chores, other important things were happening in the castle. The rat in the dungeon below was pacing and muttering in the darkness, waiting to take his revenge on the princess. And upstairs in the castle, the princess had met a mouse, and the mouse had fallen in love with her. Will there be consequences? You bet. Just as Midge's inability to perform any job well had its consequences. So finally, as a last resort, Louise sent Midge to the kitchen, where Cook had a reputation for dealing effectively with difficult help. In Cook's kitchen, Midge dropped eggshells in the pound cake batter. She scrubbed the kitchen floor with cooking oil instead of cleanser. She sneezed directly on the king's pork chop a moment before it was to be served to him. Of all the good-for-nothings I have encountered, shouted Cook, surely you are the worst, the most cauliflower-eared, the most good-for-nothingest. There's only one place left for you. The dungeon. Eh? Said Midge, cupping a hand around her ear. You're being sent to the dungeon. You're to take the jailer his noonday meal, and that will be your duty from now on. Reader, you must know that the mice of the castle feared the dungeon. Must I tell you that the humans feared it too? Certainly it was never far from their thoughts. In the warm months, the foul odor rose out of its dark depths and permeated the whole of the castle. And in the still, cold nights of winter, terrible howls issued from the dark place, as if the castle itself were weeping and moaning. It's only the wind, the people of the castle assured each other, nothing but the wind. Many a servant girl had been sent to the dungeon bearing the jailer's meal, only to return white-faced. And here's poor Miggery Sow. And weeping, hands trembling, teeth chattering, insisting that they'd never go back. And worse, there were whispered stories of those servant girls who'd been given the job of feeding the jailer, and who'd gone down the stairs and into the dungeon, and who had never been seen or heard from again. Do you believe that this will be Midge's fate? Oh, I hope not. What kind of story would this be without Midge? Listen, you cauliflower-eared fool, shouted Cook. This is what you do. You take the tray of food down to the dungeon, and you wait for the old man to eat the food, and then you bring the tray back up. Do you think you can manage that? Aye, I reckon so, said Midge. I take the old man the tray, and he eats what's on it, and I bring the tray back up. Empty it would be then. I bring the empty tray back up from the deep downs. That's right, said the cook. Seems simple, don't it? But I'm sure you'll find a way to bungle it. Eh? Said Midge. Nothing, said the cook. Good luck to you. You'll be needing it. She watched as Midge descended the dungeon stairs. They were the very same stairs, reader, that the mouse Desperaux had been pushed down the day before. Unlike the mouse, however, Midge had a light. On the tray with the food there was a single flickering candle to show her the way. She turned on the stairs and looked back at Cook and smiled. That cauliflower-eared good-for-nothing fool, said Cook, shaking her head. What's become of someone who goes into the dungeon smiling, I ask you? Reader, for the answer to Cook's question, you must read on.